It's not really sunk in yet, but as of today, we are just 2 weeks left until we kick off the Six Invitational this year. And with the European LCQ wrapping up this Sunday, it's time we take a look at the region that hasn't won a Premier Siege tournament in a little over 2 years. Who would have thought we would have been talking about Europe in that sentence? Certainly not me. It's an interesting group of teams this year, featuring two that most people regard as being in their top 10 in the world, and maybe even top 5, and a few others that no one truly knows where they'll land. But before we get into EU's chances, I am going to be in Texas for the North American LCQ this weekend, which means uploads for the next week might be a little bit scarce until I can get back. I'm jumping back into the casting booth with Seedaps, who filled in for Jesse on the NA Finals desk. Should be a banging weekend. Make sure you swing through. Shill over. Please scrub side.
Fuck you.
Europe's delegation to the 6th Six Invitational includes BDS Esport, Natus Vincer, Team Empire, Rogue, and as of winning the qualifier this weekend, Eminem Gaming. Remember back when we thought Makers was a name you'd never expect to see at SI? I think Eminem takes the unexpected cake now. Some teams here are definitely considered to be among the best in the world, others way harder to place. But one of the teams that we don't have any doubts about is BDS. Unless you're me, who has doubts about whether they can finish. They can go the distance, but for most of 2021, they couldn't wrap things up. Bride, Alems, Rafal, Renshiro, Shaiko, you know who these guys are. Why am I talking like this? The trend for last year was consistency and being feared during the EUL regular season. Then at every single LAN they attended, somewhere along the way they fell flat. Stage 1, 2nd place. SI out in the lower bracket. Stage 2, 4th place. Mexico out in semis, even though that was overtime match point. Stage 3, 1st place, French League lost in grands, Sweden out in quarters. The only notable thing they actually won last year was the EUL finals in a 3-0 drubbing of Team Empire, and that was online, which just makes me wonder if despite being a team everyone fears in Europe, they just aren't a LAN team. I shudder to think they may just be a European Dark Zero. I mean, like name me a LAN they've ever won in Rainbow Six. I don't think they ever have. Ever. Oh God, what have I done? It's been 2 years since OGA Pit. I don't know if I can undo the curse. I still think they'll make a pretty deep run. If nothing else, they've proven that they're fantastic at being dick teases. It's like they just tantalizingly lead us on thinking they might actually win something this time around, and then they don't. They're still one of the best teams in Europe. Like, they're probably one of the most, if not the most complete package that Europe has. Like, play styles, maps, everything, but I don't know. Maybe the other best team in Europe has a better chance? Empire has had a somewhat similar year to BDS, though in a slightly different way. Always Dan, Joystick, Shepard, and Scyther had a rocky start to this year, placing 7th at the beginning of the EUL, and then woke the f*** up. Nearly undefeated in their SI group stage before bowing out early, 1st in stage 2, 2nd overall at the Mexico major, 2nd in stage 3, then couldn't survive the group of death at the Sweden major, and then got slapped by BDS in the EUL grand final. So a slow start, a huge hot streak over the summer, and then a slump again. They've never stopped being a dogged opponent in LAN environments. Like, over their entire history in Siege, from the Milan finals until now, that has always been the case. Sometimes they'll have a hiccup here or there, but Empire is synonymous with tenacity. Even with criticism like not being super adaptive to their opponents or a limited map pool, you do not want to face them on LAN. They were the European team that came the closest to winning something last year. Hell, they were the best non-LATAM team overall by final result. That credit I will give them. If there was ever a time to start knocking Brazil off of its pedestal, Empire might just be the front runners to do that. But they actually have less SI points this year than NaVi, who is definitely a wild card. Not that one. At the beginning of last year, they revamped their lineup, swapping Kendrew and Joe for Secretly and Nathan to jump into the fire alongside Blur, Doki, and Saves. And they got a massive kickstart with a 1st place finish in EUL for Stage 1, which that result matters a lot for why they're at SI in the first place. The winners of Stage 1 from their respective regional leagues got a crap ton more SI points than normal because there wasn't a major after that stage. And NaVi took full advantage. If they had placed third in stage 1 as opposed to first, and then kept all of the same results throughout the rest of the year, then their spot would have been in jeopardy. Third in stage 2 was also good, but then they didn't win a single map in their Mexico major group, got 8th place in stage 3, and only managed to get third at the EUL finals. What was a damn good start to the year suddenly careened off the edge before anyone really knew what was going on. I will say, on their Mexico performance, they were meant to have Knights in their group, but when they couldn't make it, they had 2 less games to play because there were only 3 teams, which is 2 less chances to get some points and potentially qualify for playoffs. But still, no dubs is no dice at this level of play, and they know that. Not going to Sweden was definitely more of a hindrance, given that I still think they need a little more play experience together, but it just makes what they do at this SI all the more impactful for this roster's outlook for what happens next season. If they do well at SI, do they stick around like this for another stage? If they do poorly, do they immediately start making changes? I think this is something you could probably attach to a lot of teams going to SI this year, but NaVi's the one I think has the most writing on this year's results. Before we move on, can we just agree that Rogue shouldn't even be here? This team is like the definition of getting the essay done at 4 a.m. the night before it's due. They were this close to missing SI. A baby's hair. That's not an expression. We were worried they were going to get relegated at the end of last year, but that wasn't to be, and they hung on by the skin of their teeth. They swapped Karzeka out for Cryan before the season started, got 4th in stage 1, then suddenly crashed in stage 2 with just 1 win. Somebody at Rogue must have hit a panic button at that point, because in response to Corey's retirement, they then picked up Prano, who might have established himself as one of the best support players in the world over the past few months. Rogue got 4th place again in stage 3 as a result of this, made the Sweden major, and not only survived their group, but managed to beat Team 1 in the quarterfinals, who many had tagged as the odds-on favorite to win. They defeated the Curse, qualified for SI over TSM by just 5 points, and at the very least in Sweden didn't look half bad until the very, very end. The reason I say they shouldn't be here, 8th place overall on the whole year for EUL. Virtus Pro and Kavana won more games total over the same span of time and yet didn't make a single LAN. This kind of thing shouldn't be possible, but Rogue did it anyway. That's just the power of the Germans! And Leon gets. My only problem is that trying to predict how well they'll do is like betting on a Conor McGregor fight. Sometimes they look really good, but when they crash hard. The version of this team from SI 2 years ago that got totally smacked in groups, sometimes it feels like that same team is still here. They rise and fall faster than an EKG sometimes. And whether they will do so again at Invite is, honestly, anybody's guess. And finally, we can talk about Eminem. In a bracket that had Vitality, Secret, and Kavana all in it, the team that makes it out is the one that also qualified for the EUL about 5 weeks ago. I guess it wouldn't be SI without at least one underdog team making it all the way through. So, the primer for those who don't know these guys. This team is Nello, Neonical, Solotov, Tyrant, and Yuzis. If I'm pronouncing that name incorrectly, I'm sorry. This version of the lineup has only been together since September when Neo and Solotov were added prior to the start of EU Challenger League. It's the team that Nello has re-qualified for the EUL with, and also marks the first time a Turk has made it to SI or a major, so congratulations to Solotov for being a trailblazer. But they've not been a 5-stack for very long. The only things that this team has done so far is winning EUCL, SI Open Quals, relegations, and the LCQ that's sending them to Stockholm. And all of that was done in the past 4 months. Prior to that, with Fonkers and Dats on the team, they pulled 2nd in the Yukon Summer Split, but that's what this team has been, a Prem/Yukon team that usually does pretty well in Nationals and has a high standing in every EUCL season they've ever played. But now they've finally cracked through the glass ceiling and are heading to the showcase of the Immortals. Talk about a breakneck rise. The best part is, they don't have any pressure on their shoulders here, and they know that. Nello said in an interview with SiegeGG just this morning that they'll obviously be preparing, but he's not going to try and push his guys too hard. And you don't have to, because the weight of expectations just doesn't exist for you. They could get squished in groups, and I still would call it a dub, because getting here in the first place against the kind of competition you had is monumental. Tyrant even set the new Siege match kill record in that qualifier final at 65. Cyber made it just 57 back in Sweden, and now it's been exceeded by that much. Whatever these guys do, they're gonna be just fine. Easy 40K payday at the least. So, here's the ranking. It pains me to put BDS below Empire at this stage in the game, but I'm doing whatever I can to turn this curse on its head, so it's a sacrifice I have to make. Also, real quick before this video finishes, I did just see the announcement saying that the Latin American qualifier is going to be played in Stockholm with all of the teams that were supposed to participate flying over there and the winner just staying in Sweden for the start of the Invitational, and that's happening at the very beginning of February, but I don't know if it also means Atheris is going to be joining them because the team looks like it's totally disbanded. There's some details I'm still trying to sort out, but the Latin American qualifier is now happening. What are the dates? January 31st to February 1st. So what'll happen is the qualifier for North America wraps up on the 30th, and then on Monday and Tuesday of next week is where we'll see the Latin American teams play in Stockholm. I certainly hope that it doesn't turn into as much of a crapshoot as the original SI qualifier was, but the fact that they're moving everybody to Stockholm for this thing shows that UB is serious about ensuring that it doesn't go as poorly as it did last time. So this looks like a good move. I'm just a little bit confused about who's meant to be playing in it. But before we get there, NA qualifier. Your boy, Stokes, Blue, and CDAPS are going to be on the call over the course of next weekend in a studio environment, which is going to be fantastic. So please hit up my Twitter, follow the main Rainbow Six Twitch account if you haven't already for all of those updates. And yeah, I'll see you guys this weekend. Sorry about any lack of uploads, but I think as soon as I get back, it's going to be really busy. I'll see you then. Peace.